All right, guys, what's good? Welcome back to the Chad Chatter podcast here. It is Friday morning. Actually, wanted to record this episode yesterday. I was in the car. The car noise kind of was a little bit too much, so I wanted to give you guys a good recording right now. I'm also going to be putting this video and podcast up on YouTube, so you guys can watch the video as well if you'd rather consume it in that form. But if this is your first time here, whether it's to YouTube or to the podcast, I really appreciate you guys being here. If you do like this episode, please hit that like button and then hit subscribe to whether it's the podcast or YouTube. I would really appreciate it. But this is the place where we talk about everything fitness, workouts, nutrition related in a very realistic and practical sense for you guys. So today I'm just going to be talking on some thoughts that I had with gyms opening back up, both from a social and pragmatic standpoint, and then things that you can do to better prepare yourself for your training program and how you should think about your training in the first couple of weeks back in the gym. So don't want to spend too much of your time here. Want to make this a pretty short, maybe like a 10 to 12 minute episode, and then we'll get right along and get you guys out on the day. So hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday so far. I have a little list of things here that we're going to kind of run through. But first, I kind of want to first preface this with that, with all of this, with the pandemic, with COVID, with anything really opening back up and getting back into the gym, I think you first have to know that there is risk involved. There's risk involved that, hey, you may contract the virus, you may contract a different virus or a cold, or that you may get in a car accident on the way there, or that you take public transportation and something happens there. Anything that we do in life, there is going to be risk involved, and you have to decide whether that risk is really worth it and whether you want to go in or not. My biggest fear with this entire process of reopening back gyms is that it's going to be a very hostile environment. And people may say, well, no, everyone's going to be like really friendly. They want to get back into it. They just want to get back in working out. I think it's going to be very hostile for a lot of people because there's so much of kind of a scare tactic of how fast this virus can be contracted and move from person to person. So I think people are going to be very hyper reactive to everyone else's actions, whether it's wiping down equipment or coughing or sneezing or sniffling or wiping themselves with a towel or not wiping their butt sweat up enough. Like, people are just going to be very, very on edge, and I don't think it's fair to the other people in the gym. So if you are getting back into the gym, if you want to go and use all that equipment again, you have to know that it comes with some risk. You also, I think, need to make sure that you're minding your own business, and that if you're not willing to take that risk walking in there, and you're not willing to do what you need to do, not worry about what anyone else is doing, then you probably shouldn't be going back into the gym. And that's just my personal opinion. Some people may say, go fuck yourself. Some people would agree with me, but that's my personal opinion. If you're not willing to take that risk, don't go. Stay home for another month or two. Do whatever you need to do working out at home. Stay safe, and then you can actually get back into the gym and do whatever you need to do. So that kind of leads me into my next point. With all of this happening, when you get back in the gym, I think it's a good idea. Just don't be a dickhead. Don't be one of those people where you're being the police and wiping down police and sanitizing police and making sure people aren't coughing near you, or say, oh, get the hell away from me if they have some type of sniffle. There are going to be those things. People can't control bodily movements. People can't control, whether they're coughing or sneezing. It's something that it happens in everyday life, especially as we respirate more and exercise more and under, more kind of intense and vulnerable situations. That just happens, right? A lot of stuff, whether it's sweat or snot or whatever it is, happens as we exercise and exercise intensively, and we need to know that that is something that may happen. So don't be a dickhead. Do whatever you can to take care of yourself. Worry about yourself in there. Wipe your area down, and then get out and move on. So again, it all kind of just comes down to knowing that risk. If you're not willing to take the risk, don't go in there. One tip that I think could be beneficial for people would be go early. Go really early in the day, like a 5:30, 5 o'clock, whenever they open up. For the next 2 months, commit yourself to going really early in the day or really late in the day, because those are typically the times where people don't necessarily venture to the gym. A lot of time, like especially with kind of how our economy and society and workforce is going now, more people have time throughout the middle of the day, even during lunch. So they'll kind of get out for a workout during lunch. And I think the less crowds are going to be super, super early, like before even those usual morning people would get in there. and really, really, really late. So if you're worried about crowds, get in there really early or really late. I don't know how this is going to go for large health clubs, fitness centers, whatever it may be. I have a feeling that there's going to be some type of waiting, like a line, a one in, one out feature, a certain capacity. So what I'm hearing, I think it's in Arizona, they have one person per 100 square feet. So, I mean, you could still fit a decent amount of people into even like a 10,000 square foot space, which I would consider a relatively small fitness studio or health club. At least like a big box gym, but this means that 100 people could be in there at a time with 100 people per square foot. Now, are you actually distancing yourself to that? No, but they want to make sure that they're not overcrowding these facilities. So I think it's important to know and almost expect that, hey, if you're at like a Lifetime or even a Planet Fitness or somewhere that's a big box gym that's going to be very, very populated, you may have to wait in line and go one in, one out. So that's, I think, all the more reason to go early or go late. Make sure that you don't have to do that. Because I know myself, like if I was paying membership at a gym and I walked up and I was going to have to wait in a half hour or 20-minute line, or just who the hell knows, because you don't know how long people are going to take to work out, but I was having to wait till someone walks out, like I'd be pissed. I'd be livid. I'd be like, absolutely not. You're either going to lower my rates or I'm not going to come here. So if that's going to happen, and it probably will in a lot of cases, just make sure that you prep yourself with that. Another tip for in the gym, kind of isolating yourself, if you're worried about this and you still want to go, take equipment and form your own station. So take, like I said, dumbbells, a couple bands, maybe a TRX strap, or you find somewhere in the gym where you can isolate yourself with like 3-4 pieces of equipment and create your own workout and circuit around that. There's a lot that you can do with very limited equipment, whether it's a full dumbbell workout or a full band workout, or a combo of all of it. That is a very easy way to, number one, make sure that you are protecting yourself, so you can get all your equipment, you could wipe all of it down, wash your hands, execute the workout, wipe everything down again for the safety of other people, and then put it back to its spot. So that's one of the biggest things, and I think people lose sight of how much transmission actually goes on within a big box gym, within a small fitness studio. I own a very small fitness studio in Chicago where we do one-on-one personal training, and we usually have 6 clients on the floor and 6 coaches on the floor at one time. So 12 people in the studio. The amount of people that are coming into the gym on a daily basis may reach up to like 80, but that's a pretty high day. And so our sample size is small, and we still, when I think about all the transmission that goes on, it's still very, very high, right? From one coach to another client, to the next coach, to the next client. Like, we are all grabbing a lot of the same weights, and you don't know where those people have been before. You don't know what they're touching, whether it's their bag. You don't know whether they were sitting on public transportation, or whether they washed their hands before. So the transmission is going to happen. Again, it's that risk of you're taking, is it actually going to happen, and are you going to contract something? But it's going to happen. You just have to make sure that you're taking control of what you can control. So I think that station idea is a pretty good one. Another thing would be, hey, if you like to use a little bit of the heavier equipment, like a leg press or a pull down, stay at those pieces of equipment for your set. Don't jump superset to superset and go back and forth between exercises, because you know that people are either going to get pissed off that you're yelling at them as you come back to it, or you're going to get aggravated that people are swiping your equipment as you walk away. So isolate yourself as much as possible. Wipe the machine down before you use it. Use it for your 3 or 4 sets. Get the hell out of there and wipe it down afterwards. I think that's a really the best way to make sure that you're not having a bunch of transmission with other people as we kind of get into the gym. Now, if you want to use cardio equipment, by all means, cardio is easy, right? Wipe it down before, use it, wipe it down after, and you're done. Now, moving on to the more of the training aspect, one thing I think people are going to do very, very wrong is they're going to go too hard, too fast, right? They've been at home, they've either been walking or just doing light cardio or even home workouts, and now they're going to get into the gym, and it's going to be like the floodgates are going to open. They're going to go really hard, really fast, and whether they're going to get injured or they're going to be really, really sore, or they're just going to get burnt out really, really quickly. So I think it's the best idea to make sure that first we're focusing on the overall work capacity. And when I mean work capacity, like how much are you able to do? And you have to have some type of reality check that it's not going to be as easy as it was when you first left that gym, right? So when the pandemic first happened, the lockdown first happened, you were at whatever level of fitness, right? That has probably dropped in terms of overall work capacity, especially for the specific lifts that you're doing. So say you're doing some type of strength program where you're using machines and you're using other equipment that you don't have at home, that overall strength of that movement, because it's very specific, is going to drop and is going to decrease. And your overall work capacity is probably going to drop and decrease because, if you're a decently strong individual, the overall load that you can use at home is going to go down. Maybe you built up more muscular endurance at home because you don't have as much weight. You have more things where you can do a lot more reps. So maybe you built that up, but the overall strength and work capacity at those loads, I think, is going to decrease. So in turn, my best suggestion is to work back very easily. Make sure your form is correct. Make sure we're controlling every single movement. And then choose like 3 or 4 exercises. Do like 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 and get back to where you were before. You have to know that it's not going to happen immediately. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over 2 nights. I would say for the first 2 weeks at least, all you're thinking about is choosing like 4 exercises, whether it's upper or lower, a mix of both. And you're thinking about good form. You're thinking about getting like 10 to 12 reps and thinking about starting to increase that strength and work capacity again. So people are going to come in to the gym and they're going to wreck themselves because they've been sitting on the couch, their form is a little off, their technique is off, and now they're going to load exactly how they did before, right before lockdown happened, and that's where we see that recipe for injury. So just know that, hey, I wouldn't even go near maybe like a barbell in the first 2 weeks that you're there, right? Work on some machines, get your strength back, work on technique, maybe go an empty barbell if you go deadlifts, right? Or maybe go 50% of the weight that you usually lift or 30% of the weight that you usually lift. Master the form and get back into it correctly. Yes, it may be a temporary inconvenience to do all this, to take your time and to not necessarily sweat as much and to not work as hard right in the beginning, but it's going to pay dividends down the road when you can get back to it in a month as opposed to getting injured and then you're off for another 2 months, kind of laboring your injury. The next thing would be think about your pace, right? At home, who knows what our pace is at home, but think about your overall pace. Number one, for you, the individual, getting your heart rate up and again working that work capacity back. So maybe time your rest to like no more than a minute between sets, and then you can really start to feel kind of that stimulus where the heart's beating, we're breathing hard, and it's a lot harder for us to continue to execute the workout. Also, from a perspective of you just want to be mindful of other people using the equipment. So, okay, sorry, I had to hop out real quick. Actually, I had a car delivered, so we can test drive a little bit, see if we want to grab this one. But back to it, I think another good practice that you could do moving up to the days when you're actually going to be able to be in the gym is to work on some type of mobility, right? So whether it's squat mobility, hamstring mobility, whether you want to work full body mobility, make sure that you're getting into these good positions. So actually on my Instagram, there's a bunch of days that I just did, my morning mobility sessions. And I did a video on hip mobility, did a video on T-spine mobility. So making sure that we can get into these positions again. And by no means am I a large, mobility guy. Like, I'm not preaching that you have to always touch your toes and get into perfect squat position, because I don't either. But I do think over the course of sitting down, of being over at desks, we tend to get a little bit locked up. And I think making sure that we can get it back into those good positions is going to help us moving forward in the gym. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you today. I really appreciate you guys listening to the episode. If you like this episode, by all means, please subscribe to the podcast or here on YouTube. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, until next time, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully, we will all be back in the gym and getting big very, very soon. See you guys. Cheers.